Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Truth, lies, shenanigans. 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 It's the TLS show, coming to you live from the TLS show. It's the TLS show, coming to you live.
Hey, welcome to the Truth, Lies, Shenanigans podcast, where your favorite hosts bring you some of the most interesting topics of the week to discuss and ask the question, is this truth, lies, or shenanigans? And we always try to have fun with some shenanigans of our own along the way with amazing guests, games, and spirited conversations. My name is Neil Nix. For this week's show, we have Neicee Jordan joining us to talk about her book, Behind Closed Doors, and her recent conversation with Olivia and Gianni on the Beyond the Scars podcast, where she shares her story about childhood molestation, adult abuse, and how she was able to persevere. In our main topic, we are talking about Mitch McConnell, basically saying blacks are not Americans. And in quick fire, we're talking about an anti-vaxxer getting COVID on purpose and dying. And rappers are fighting to have their lyrics ignored in the courts. And in Shenanigans the Game Show, we're playing the game called Interesting Thoughts. So it should be fun. Now, before we get into the show, let me introduce you to our amazing host for the next hour, the professor, journalist, editor, and sports intern mentor at ESPN, Miss Lizzie Enders.
What's up, everyone? Happy Sunday Fun Day. I hope you guys had an amazing week. Things in the Washington, D.C. area, the DMV, we got hoodwinked again. We were promised snowstorms on 2 days, and we got nothing.
Nothing.
So, we still have a couple of more, at least a month and a half left of winter. So I'm hoping we can squeeze in another snowstorm. But other than that, it was a very busy week for me, busy day today. So I'm just trying to catch my breath and keep up with everyone.
I feel you. And of course, the gamer, tech guru, and bona fide rock star from the rock band Fallen Machine, coming to you from Ontario, Canada, Mr. Robbie Rock.
What's up, everyone? Happy Sunday Fun Day. I had an amazing week. And Liz, I think that we got the snow that you missed. It's been a winter week up here. We've had some Arctic chill for sure. We've had some snow, but I had a wonderful week. I got to play a board game with my daughter. We got to play Pop-O-Matic Trouble,
Aww.
Frustration, and it was really great until she got tired of it and started rolling 9s and 14s and 23s. So once excited.
I remember Trouble. I loved
Right?
that game.
Haven't
I
played
loved
Trouble
that
in
game growing
forever.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a lot of fun to just play with her, see her playing a counting game, and then just getting tired of it and going, I got a 14. No, it's for real. This is the rule. Awesome, kid. This is perfect.
All right. And we have our college student, actress, student, model, entrepreneur, and the host of our newest podcast, Beyond the Scars, streaming from Atlanta, Georgia, Miss Gianni Storm.
Hello, guys. Hello, everybody. We're almost finished with January. We made it.
I know,
We
right?
survived. Yes, we made it the first month of the year, so I'm excited about that. And also, Atlanta is snowing. Can you believe it?
Nuh-uh.
It's
You
sunny.
lied.
I know. Only one
Show me
day,
the receipt.
and it didn't stick.
Show me the receipt. Show me the receipt. I don't believe you.
I know I should have took a video, but it didn't stick. But we definitely have this cold drought. I know my hands have been ashy. Trust me, it's been very cold outside. But yeah,
Sure, it
things are,
snowed,
things are,
Johnny. Sure.
Listen.
you
You
guys
are
don't
a
believe
brown.
me.
You are a brown girl. You have no excuse for ash. You have no excuse for
No
ashiness.
excuse for Ash.
No excuse.
Like that should never be the case. I know.
Ever.
But things are cold, but they're good. They're moving along. They're good.
All right, good to hear.
Good. Glad
All
to
right, so
hear it. Glad
Gianni,
to hear it.
you and Olivia launched a brand new podcast, Beyond the Scars. So tell us all about it.
Yes. So Beyond the Stars, talks about we have stories that talk about pain, obstacles, uncertainty, and how the individual persevered through that. So individuals from all walks of life, everyone should kind of everyone has their own story, and we like to let people share their story so that it can connect to somebody that relates to it, somebody that might be going through something similar, and they find help in those stories. So it's a humble podcast, and we stream every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Oh, I'm sorry, we drop episodes every Wednesday. And you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM. And we also would like for you guys to join our Facebook group. There's a lot of like live conversations that happen in the posts, in the chat. So go to Beyond the Stars on Facebook and join the group and subscribe to our podcast.
That's awesome. So the latest episode, what was that all about? Just briefly.
The latest, yes, the really quick latest episode, we had guest Neicee J. She actually told her story in detail, where you got to hear the emotion when she was speaking, and you got to kind of see the scenes in your head. She spoke about her childhood molestation, and she also spoke about abuse that she experienced as an adult, which, in a nutshell, was very traumatic. But at the same time, it was a good story that it came up to. How things culminated, it was beautiful. So if you guys want to check out that episode, it already dropped. It's on Anchor FM and everywhere you can watch podcasts.
That's awesome. And fortunately, we were able to get Neicee onto our show. So make sure you check out that episode when you can. But let's hear straight from Neicee Jordan. Today's spotlight is on author of Behind Closed Doors, Tahneisha Neicee Jordan. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for coming on. All right. So, Neicee, thank you for joining the show. So, Neicee is a wife, mother, grandmother, and of course, new author of the book Behind Closed Door, where she talks about her life dealing with childhood molestation, toxic relationships, abuse, and suicide attempts, and how she was able to persevere. She also shares more of her complex story in the latest episode of Beyond the Scars with our own Gianni and Olivia. So, Neicee, again, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate you joining.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, before we get into your story, Neicee, so feel free to share a little bit about yourself. And of course, we always ask everyone if you can add something in there that we simply can't Google about you.
Oh, well, as you mentioned, I am from up north. I am from Northeast Ohio. And I've moved to North Carolina, I think of 2014, to get away from the snow that you guys were talking about. So I am here enjoying the one day of snow. And I am an entrepreneur. I am now an author, which I love.
Yay.
Something I never thought to do because I hate reading and I hate writing. So now I'm an author.
Okay,
Yeah,
two
seriously.
things not to do if you're an author, not to hate if you're an author,
Say
right?
that to an English professor.
Weird.
You say that to an English professor.
That's right.
Dagger in the heart.
The English professor.
But I'm loving the journey though.
Good.
But one thing you can that you can't Google about me is that I am really passionate now about writing, especially about the things that I've been writing about. And so I am looking, hopefully, in the near future, I would love to have a nonprofit organization to help, teens that's going through, what I've gone through. And so that's what I'm hoping.
That's amazing.
Beautiful.
So,
Amazing.
That is amazing.
so your story is pretty harrowing. As a child growing up, dealing with molestation from family members, and then an abusive relationship as an adult. What drove you to write this book? Because I have a similar story to yours. I mean, minus the molestation, but I've always wanted to write a book about it. I even put out an outline and started to really actually get into it, and then I just kind of lost the drive for some reason. So, how did you find the drive and inspiration to write your book?
Well, as women, a lot of times we like to write down our feelings. And it seems that we can express more how we feel by writing. So just so happened a particular day that I was, upset. And I know a lot of my anger is driven from my past. So I just wanted to start writing, just getting everything off of my chest. And just so happened, as I'm writing about, why I'm angry, my husband said, you know what? You should probably put all of your anger into a book. And so I said, you know what? I think I'm going to do that. So I just started writing down things that had happened to me, from when I was a child until, current. I just got to writing and he said, turn it into a book. So I said, you know what? Okay.
Wow.
Because now I'm able to actually get everything out versus, verbally, I was unable to do that.
Yeah.
But writing, yeah, I just put it all on paper and just turned it into
Amazing.
Oh,
I think somebody's
your
muted.
mic. Neil, your mic might be muted.
It is. So, Robbie, what is your question?
Neicee, thank you so much for the work that you're doing because I think that most of us are victims of some form of household trauma or trauma in relationships. So I think what you're doing has great value. While I was researching you a little bit, I came across the GoFundMe that you have going on for the Lorraine High School students.
Yeah.
And I really wanted you to give you an opportunity to tell us more about that. So if you could please share what you're putting together for these young adults and what happened.
So, as you guys know, I am from up north and I did attend Lorraine High. Lorraine High was Emerald King High School and now Lorraine High. So being from that city, um, there's a lot of us who have gone through what I went through. And so when I saw that video that was put out, teenagers have put out video them crying out. I received the video, so when I saw it, immediately, of course, it took me back. And they were crying, they were pouring out their hearts to, the teachers, the other students, explaining, what had happened to them, and they were not being hurt. So for me, instantly, it was like, you have to figure out something to do. I can't save the world. However, I thought, you know what, there has to be something done for these kids because they're crying out for help and obviously they're not getting it. And so, or they're not being heard, according to them. They're not being heard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to put together some type of event that will allow them to come together with me and several other adults from that city to talk and express, what is on their heart, what's on their mind, and be able to release it with no judgment. And so right now I'm put together the GoFundMe so I could raise money to put this event together as well as purchase, a number of books and journals for these.
So,
Yay.
Comment online from Jacqueline Robinson. The real Me Too movement, founded by a sister in Harlem, was all about allowing young people to have a safe space to speak about their abuse. Unfortunately, it's been colonized and bastardized by Hollywood actresses. Olivia, the other host of Beyond the Scars, I appreciate that Neicee actually printed the book and journal. The internet stuff just isn't the same. Melanie Rochelle James, I'm so glad that your husband was supportive. All right. Johnny Storm, question.
Yes. So, Neicee, I know that you mentioned you did, along your journey, find more passion with writing. Do you have any new books coming out or anything that you may do, that any other writing prompts or anything else that you would author?
Absolutely. Currently, I am finishing up my children's book.
A
So
Oh,
children's
that
book.
is actually in the hands of an illustrator. So that will be done this month. Well, I'm sorry, February. Um, so it's
Nice.
for the age
Wow.
8. It's the behind closed doors, good touch, bad touch. So
I
I'm
love that
super excited
concept.
about.
Wow.
I'm also looking to do a few more books pertaining to, the same thing. The good touch, bad
Yeah.
touch, but for older children. Still trying to work that out, but I
Yeah.
definitely had to get a children's book out, for the children, especially with my grandson. He's 5, and then I have a 1-year-old granddaughter, and I wanted to get a book
Oh,
that will
yeah.
help them as well. So that is actually the out. I'm excited.
All right, children's book. That's great because I think when I was listening to the episode on Beyond the Scars, one of the things that struck me is when you said the difference now about telling your parents when something is wrong versus how you felt as a child, telling your parents that you didn't know it was wrong, and you didn't know to
Right.
tell your children, your parents, that something wrong was happening to you. So, doing a book like this, kind of brings that to light. So,
Mhm.
all right,
Absolutely.
Liz, your question.
so one, I want to honestly applaud you again for, coming forward and sharing your story with us, but also for utilizing the power of the pen, the power of writing, because I think a lot of times, when something happens to us as humans, as women, as men, when we experience trauma, sometimes we can't speak, but we can write. And so I think you are proving that, you can heal and get your voice out, maybe not speaking it, but putting it down on paper. And I say that as someone who talks a lot. I have a big voice, right? But I also, I mentioned before, I'm an English professor, I'm a writer, I'm a journalist. So I'm used to kind of doing both. But I too have a similar story. I also am a survivor of child sex abuse. And in the moment, in listening to your episode, your Beyond the Scars episode with Olivia and Gianni, um, I didn't, like you, I didn't say anything at first. And I think that was one of the few times in my life where I was silenced. Like I was forced into a period where I couldn't speak, I couldn't say anything. Um, and so, but when I did, so we're talking, for me, it was between the ages of 9 and 10 and a half. And then it took me maybe another year to say something. But when I did, it was probably at that point in my life, but in my overall upbringing, probably the most courageous moment of me.
Mhm.
And so, what made you finally decide to tell, to just give your truth to your family, your parents, if and when you told them, your siblings? Like, what made you feel comfortable in telling your story?
Um, when I finally told my parents, I think it was because I just had enough. I was in the middle of the domestic violence relationship with the domestic violence. And I just had enough. And it was just so much that I had bottled up because even with my relationship, though my parents knew something was going on in that relationship, they didn't really come to me and say, hey, we know this is going on. They were the type to stay out the business unless I've come to them with the business. But I just had enough of everything. From the molestation and holding all of that in, from the abuse of the second husband. And so I said, you know what? I need to open up. I need to tell my father, my
Right.
mother, what had happened to me. Though I didn't
Yeah.
come busting in the home to tell them what happened during the physical abuse, I did tell them about the molestation. Uh, and it was just, I just had just felt everything. It
Yeah.
was just anger. I had so much anger. And it was just time to open up.
And
It was
I'm happy that you were able to do that and have a voice. Were you scared when you had to,
At that
have that
moment to
first
tell them,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I was because I didn't know how they were going to take it. Especially knowing my uncle at the time, he was locked up. He was
Mm.
in prison for doing 15 years for molesting or raping his girlfriend's 10-year-old daughter at the time.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
that specific day that I went and talked to them, my dad was actually on his way out of the home to go visit him at the prison. And so, to bust in to say, hey, this happened to me, you know, it was tough
Wow.
because my dad, first of all, he's fighting cancer. And that was another thing.
mm.
I didn't want to put all of that pressure on him
Right,
because he was sick.
right,
Yeah.
And
right.
so,
Yep.
but I had to tell him. And so, yes, I was scared because I didn't know how it was going to affect him. I didn't know. I just didn't know. And so, when I told him, he went to visit with my uncle. What he said to him, I have no idea. I never went back to ask him. And I just wanted to get it off my chest, and whatever happened from that point on, it happened.
Let it go.
So yeah, I just let it
And
go.
I don't think a lot of people realize whether you are a child or you are an adult, it takes a lot to get the strength to tell what is happening to you, especially if it's in a family, right? If the abuse is in a family, because it's going to shake up the entire dynamic of the
Yes.
family relations, situations, relationships, all of that. For me, when I was still young, I think I was probably 12 and a half, maybe. Um, and that was probably the hardest conversation I ever had in my life with my dad, because I told him first. Um, and I mean, I was shaking, I was kind of talking around it, and then I whispered it in his ear. That's how because I didn't want it to come out of my mouth really. And so in listening to your story, I related to that so much. What do you think, or how would you describe, because telling is such a large part of it and it's such a hard part of it, how would you describe your family's reaction? Like once people started to understand and realize what was happening to you, not only as a child, because we're talking about for you two different phases of abuse, childhood, abuse, but then also domestic violence within a marriage. So when you were able to finally release, like, what was the response within the family?
So when I told my father about my uncle, of course, he was upset. He was upset. My mom was hurt. Um, and they were the only ones. I mean, my sister, I didn't really, I didn't tell her. She didn't find out until after the book was released.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
and my mother, she really didn't get the full story either until after the book was released.
Mm.
They just got a piece of what I told them, but I just got what I needed to get off that day off my chest, and I was okay, but I knew there was a lot more that I needed to say. And so
Yes.
there was no other way to do it
Wow.
but to put it on paper to really get it out.
Right.
Unfortunately, my father's not here now to know what all
Right.
took place, except for what
Mm.
I told him that day.
Wow.
Wow.
And so, where
This
are
is
you
wow.
now with your family? Where are
We're
you now with your
fine. I
family?
mean, everything is good. Actually, I found out a couple more family members some things happened to them after I
Mm,
released the book. Um, my mother, she was extremely hurt after reading the book because her words to me was, "If I would have known, we would have protected you, but we didn't think we would have to protect you from your grandfather and your uncle." And
So
I was never given any signs, I was never showing them anything, that was going on. So,
Right.
like I
there's a
said, with the physical abuse, with the domestic violence, they 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 knew, but again, I was grown, so they weren't
yeah.
really trying to
Yeah.
involve themselves unless they really, really needed to.
So let me. There's some comments online. Jose says, "So brave." Mike Winter says, "Empowering moment." Um, and then Jeanette Brown says, "We're often brainwashed by our abusers to think no one will believe us." She also says, "It is especially difficult when the abuser is a parent, and in your case, a grandparent." My next question is: do you wish you mentioned that your parents only get involved? You just said your parents only got involved when they felt it was necessary. Do you wish that your parents stayed more involved in your life as you were going and asked more questions and wanted to know what was happening so that they could maybe better give you guidance, better protect you? Do you wish that were the case, that they had done something different?
Um, Well, my parents have always been there from day one, and they've always instilled in me and my sister, what we should look for when it comes to, different things. But, as we get older, we're hard headed. We are so hard headed. And so, I basically did what I wanted to do. And honestly, I did not want to involve them when it came to the domestic part of it because, again, my father was sick. And I did not want to stress either one of them out with any of that. So it was like more of me just trying to handle it myself. Um,
Mhm.
my brother-in-law and my sister, they did a lot of the jumping in,
Hmm. Hmm.
So when the abuse was happening, they did a lot of the protecting.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah.
and later we'll tell, them what happened. But yeah, I did not want my parents to get it.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
And I
There's
think
a.
I think that's common. I think it happens a lot, especially as it relates to hood sexual abuse, as it relates to adult domestic violence. We're not conditioned because you have a lot of parents who say, for example, "I won't let anyone watch my kids unless they're family." Like we're conditioned to
Mhm.
Mhm.
believe that family won't hurt us, but
Yeah.
believe it
Right.
or
Right.
not, family they're the first people that have access to your children, that have
Yeah.
access to us.
Exactly.
And so abusers come in every shape, form, color, gender. And that's what we need to, remember as we're walking through this life. Like the face of an abuser is not something that we could just put on a poster. It could be
Right.
anyone. And
Right.
even as it relates to domestic violence, like,
Yeah.
this person you were married to, and you would never think. And then all of a sudden it's just
True.
like, wow,
Okay.
here we
It's
go.
true.
Right.
Wow.
So we're running short on time. I know, Neicee, you've got to go and see your grandkids. But some final comments online. Jeanette Brown says, "It's so hard. On one hand, it is hard not to be hurt that the people around us didn't see us and help us. At the same time, we were also we were also working really hard to seem like nothing is wrong." Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
Paulette Bertrand says, "Thank you so much for coming forward with this. As we know, many do not have the strength to come
Right.
forward." Um, A day says, "You are a brave soul, Neicee. Continue to stay strong, sending love and light to you. Thank you for having the
Oh,
Thank
courage
you.
to share your story." Um,
Thank you.
so, and then let's see. Silence turn. This is Jeanette Brown again. Silence turning in towards ourselves. Rounded shoulders, low self-esteem, depression, abrupt behavior change. These are the things. The question was a few things to look for. Yeah, and that's the kind of the final question I want to ask is, what should a child, what should a parent be looking for in a child who may be
hmm.
dealing with um, sexual abuse or molestation?
It's so tough. You know, of course you have to watch their pattern. You know, we children, 1 minute they're one way, and then you have to, if they're what's the word I'm looking for? If their behavior is different, you know, that's
Yes.
something you want to really pay attention to.
Okay.
And when they start to be shut off, and quiet, like there's just the behavior, the change in their behavior is
Yep,
the most important.
exactly.
And as soon as you see that, you want to start asking questions.
Mm.
Period.
Okay.
All right, Neicee. I want to thank you so much for joining us and telling your
Thank
story.
you.
Do you have any final
Thank you
words
guys.
for everyone out there? Any final words before you leave? Any shout outs? Anything you want to say?
I basically, for all of those who have gone through, what I've gone through, you know, I, I just pray. That's just bottom line. You have to pray on everything. And if someone is hurting you, you have to be able to just speak out. Just speak up. Do not hold this stuff in, because it will cause an issue in your future, because it did for me. It took a while to get out of that slump, but never let someone keep you so imprisoned that you
Wow.
cannot talk.
Right.
Speak, tell someone, tell someone that you trust. That's the purpose of my journal. Just tell someone.
Okay. All right, Neicee. Thank
Thank
you
you.
again so much for
Thank
joining
you
us.
so much.
Thank you.
Make
Thank
sure
you
you
so
check
much.
out her book, Behind Closed Doors. The link is in the description. Go ahead and get it right now. It's a fantastic read. So thank you again, Neicee, for joining us.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, and
Beautiful
all
guest. Beautiful
yeah,
guest.
great guest. And you've got to check out her story on Beyond the Scars, because it's really an in-depth story. She goes into a little more detail on some of the things, and you really need to take a listen. So Beyond the Scars, you can go to beyondthescars.show if you're having trouble finding it, but you should be able to find it anywhere that you listen to podcasts. All
And I
right.
think we're going to talk about this topic more on the after show. I think we're going to explore this a little
Yes.
bit more on the after show.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have to explore it a little bit more,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
I think we have stories to share about that, and I have more I want to say personally. So I agree. All right, let's get into our quick fire. All right, it's time for quick fire. Our hosts have some topics they want to share, but we only have 3 minutes to discuss and 1 minute to hear from you. So type in your comments fast. Any topics where our host won't shut up, we have the dreaded mute button, and they can save their
Y'all ain't
comments
fine.
for our
Y'all
after
ain't
show.
muting me. Y'all ain't muting me. Whatever. Whatever.
All right, let's do it. Lizzie, you're up first.
I am. I thought I was up last. Okay. We are talking about we are talking about Jay-Z. Neo had me that phrase is in my head now, Neo. When we
Jazzy.
were in the pre-show, jazzy, but also like fuck Jay-Z.
Rock Jay-Z.
But we're talking about Jay-Z and a few of his fellow rappers who are challenging some of the laws in New York City as it relates to freedom of artistic expression, if you will. So they want to, strike down the law in which the local or the state government, in New York City can use their lyrics against them. can use, let's say, for example, if Jay-Z, and I don't think he has any lyrics about killing people, but let's say, for example, rappers who tend to talk about, their criminal activities in their lyrics, whether it be selling drugs, whether it be stealing, or, excuse me, assaulting people, shooting
Murder.
people, killing people.
Yeah.
So they want to ban the opportunity from, the legal system to use those lyrics against them, to bring charges against them, to use those lyrics as evidence in possible cases, in future cases. So my question to my panel is, what do you think about this? Are you for or against this? Do you think this is a fair bill, a fair law that they're trying to, change, trying to shift?
Let's start with Gianni Storm.
Do I think it's fair? No. Do I think it's smart? Yes, because a lot of people do have their confessions. They lay the whole story out in detail in some of their verses. But I was a little biased because as we were kind of getting into this, I looked up if this was an issue, like were there a lot of rappers that were really kind of being affected by this? And actually there are. Even though they're not like mainstream rappers, there are a lot of like local rappers that or kind of take advantage of. But it's not fair to me. I'm just gonna say that. I don't think it's fair. I think it's freedom of expression, and I do think you should separate the art from the individual.
All right. Real quick, I'll just say, I think a lot of people do confess some things in their lyrics. And if it is found that there's some corroborating evidence, I think they should be considered. Although I understand that some people may be referring to other people's crimes or it may be exaggerated. I get that. So I get their point of view, but I think they should be... anyway, I'll let you go, Rob.
All right. So I'm glad that Liz put this out there, because when I first looked at it, I had to really admit a cultural bias, because I don't identify with a lot of lyrical content in rap because, it's just not around me. But it's interesting to me that rap and metal get drawn into these types of characterizations. I don't know if you remember in '85, the PMRC, the Parents Music Resource Center. This is why we have parental advisories on albums now, but it reminded me of the witch hunt that was led against metal back in the day, because they testified that it filled youthful ears with pornography and violence, and it glorified behaviors from suicide, drugs, occult, that kind of shit. The issue that I have with lyrical content is if you identify an antagonist by name in a precarious, dangerous, murderous situation, like if someone sang about me being in their trunk while they're packing heat and something happens to me, look into that. Please look into that.
Yeah.
To me, I guess that's the only place where I kind of draw the lines when you start identifying particular harm.
We can pick it up later. So like Lizzie?
Specific.
My issue, one, I think it's bullshit. Why is that wonking on me? I think it's bullshit. I think it's bullshit, and I think it's misguided, especially from this group of rap artists. The majority of rap artists that are trying to get this movement going are former criminals, if you will. My thing is that where do we draw the line between art and someone being a dumbass and confessing their crime?
It's a tough line.
What's the difference between, Jay-Z potentially talking about XYZ crime in his song versus me texting somebody about it?
Yeah, it's a tough line to draw.
Like, where's the difference?
All right.
So, no, I'm not for this. I think it's bullshit.
All right. Is this truth, lies,
I mean, I already said it. Y'all know what I'm going to say.
I don't have my...
Shenanigans. I think that we could just...
I'm going to say it for you, Gianni. Bullshit.
Yeah, I choose...
For Gianni.
Okay,
so what is it? I can't hear you. Just say it, Gianni.
For me.
Say it for our podcasters so they can hear you.
I think that it is truth and shenanigans to it. Because I do think
that's my girl.
on their
I
side.
got
I'm
I
on
got
their
your
side.
signs,
And
girl. I got your signs.
Okay.
Shenanigans. This is just going to give them an out to confess shit and then be able to get out of jail for it. All right.
But Theo, it's
All
hard.
right, we'll talk about it later. All right, Rob B. Rob B, you are up next.
All right. So this week, 57-year-old Hannah Orca, probably a name you're not familiar with, but she is a very popular anti-vax folk singer from the Czech Republic. And she could no longer perform with her band Assonance, which is the oldest folk band in the Czech Republic. The band was founded in 1976, and Hannah was a member from 1985. The band is still up and running. They've got 14 albums out. Now, her beef was
Wow.
that there were new vaccination requirements or proof of recovery from COVID-19 required to enter concert halls and performance venues, so she was no longer able to perform. When her husband and son, who are vaxxed, caught the virus, she decided that it was a great opportunity to get a health pass without having to get her jabs, so she could prove recovery. She became infected and seemed to be recovering when she posted on social media, "I survived. It was intense. So now there will be theater, sauna, a concert, and an urgent trip to the sea." Then on Sunday morning, she passed away after choking to death. Now, her 24-year-old son, Jan Rek, shared that it was heartbreaking that she chose to listen to strangers on social media rather than her own family who loves her. So I want your thoughts on how dangerous anti-science beliefs really have become. And also, if you could share one anti-vaxxer's method of fighting COVID that you've heard of that can actually cause us harm.
All right, Rob B left us a minute and 30. Go ahead, Gianni.
When Trump said that you should drink bleach, or somebody said that they should drink like hydrochloroquine or bleach, and that helped. That was ridiculous. But to answer your question, my view on anti-science, I don't have a problem with people questioning science, homeopathic, whatever it's called. I don't have a problem with people questioning that. You have to have your own mind in this world. But I do have a problem with them replacing science methods with like unproven theories or like things that are just like
You mean nonsense? Are we
deliberately
calling it
wrong.
nonsense? Okay, nonsense.
Yeah.
No, you call it for what it is. Bullshit? You mean bullshit?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, all right.
And
So
yeah.
real quick, so I'll point out Meatloaf, Herman Cain. There's so many anti-vaxxers
Meatloaf.
that are Meatloaf died from COVID. And he was an
No, that-
anti-vaxxer just like the rest of them.
And,
So
and Meatloaf said, "If I die, I die."
yeah, so
You
that's
do.
what happened. So I think these people are idiots. They're idiots. I'm leaving 20 seconds for Lizzie. Go ahead.
I just don't understand it. I just don't understand, especially when you're a mother, you're a wife, so you're not just swinging it solo like me. You have other people that depend on you, that love you, and people who are anti-vaxxers. It's not like they're totally you know removing themselves from everything medical, right? They're taking a whole lot of other shit throughout their lives. They drink, they smoke weed, they, inject themselves with all these other things. But when it comes to this one particular vaccine, it's like, oh, I don't trust medicine. Whatever. Get out of my face.
Nonsense. All right, we got a bunch of comments online. I'll catch the other comments in a bit. Mike Winter, so dumb. I feel no sympathy whatsoever for these anti-vaxxers. I'm so sick of my glasses fogging up because of my wearing my mask. Get the damn shot, you whiny ass babies. All right, Latoya Blakely, this is one of those people that both saddens and pisses me off, shaking my fucking
very
head.
sad.
I will always be sad about people dying from this terrible virus, but simultaneously pissed the fuck off that they intentionally put themselves in harm's way to be taken away from the people who love them most.
They make it hard to be compassionate and sad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never going to champion someone dying because they didn't get the vaccine, but they do make it hard for me to feel bad for them.
Yep. Jose says, I cannot, same as you, I cannot feel bad for their choices. Think of the others. And she also says, preach, Lizzie. Jacqueline Robinson, I've said it before and I will reiterate it. I am out of F's to give for people who knowingly put themselves and others in harm's way. Totally agreeing with that. So what are we calling this?
Lies, shenanigans.
Oh, I feel bad that she died. So.
Everything is bullshit for Lizzie, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with you guys. It's all
Shenanigans for
Do
me.
you know how many rapid
It's
tests I've taken
nonsense.
over the
Yeah, I've
past
taken a
week?
bunch of, me too.
Yeah, it's because, and I don't go out anywhere, but I go to CVS,
I go out.
and the one person in CVS
I go
who
out.
doesn't have a mask on, I come back home like, okay, I have it. Or the one time last week when I forgot to put my mask on and came back home in literal tears,
So you
I took rapid tests for 2 days straight because I'm like, I got it. And so then you have these other people who are unvaxxed, shamelessly unvaxxed, running around. It's like, you don't understand the stress that is put on the rest of us.
all right. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, I told you guys a story about a guy who had. I go play volleyball. There's a guy who was coughing next to me, and he pulled his mask down. Come to find out, he caught COVID. It's always
shit.
those assholes that catch COVID. So anyway, all right. So so that's it. Let's go over. I do want to go over the comments from our previous segment topic. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just looking for them. So, ma'am, Lizzie, as usual, reading my mind. If you kill someone and are dumb enough to put the details about the murder into the song to incriminate yourself, go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Hello. I may have committed a crime in my life. I may have slept with your man, but I'm not writing about it. Like, come on. Come on.
Jacqueline Robbins says there's no statute of limitations on murder. If you are big, bad, and bold enough to confess to a crime, you should suffer the consequences. Mike Winter, that was an SVU episode last week where this Bama admitted to murdering someone. Admission is absolutely admissible as evidence.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. So those were good comics. All right. Let's get to our main topic real quick.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
All
What
right.
you got? What you got? What you got, Neo?
Yeah, I've got this one. I've got this full.
Woo!
Yeah, this full. So,
What
all
are we
right.
talking about? The chicken neck? We talking about the chicken neck? Is that
We
what
talking.
we're talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about the chicken neck. So, this past Wednesday, Republicans in the Senate blocked the Freedom to Vote John Lewis Act, which would have made voting more accessible across the nation. At a press conference after it failed, reporter Pablo Manriquez asked the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, about the impact and concerns of voters of color. Wait, I may need to enunciate a little better. Mitch McConnell, sorry, Mitch McConnell. And here's what he said, quote, the concern is misplaced because if you look at the statistics, African-American voters are voting in just a higher percentage as Americans. Now, the great poet and author Toni Morrison once said, in this country, American means white. Everybody else has to hyphenate. So my question to you guys is really simple. Was she right? Let's start with Rob.
I think it's indicative because, when I stop and think about it, we don't have that many hyphens in Canada. I mean, there are groups that choose to identify differently, but we don't label it. We're Canadian. It's pretty much as simple as that. And I guess it's not the first time that Mitch McConnell has made statements that are a little problematic when it comes to racial sensitivity, if you will. And then I take a look at it and kind of go, this is a 79-year-old man. And just a few weeks ago, we were discussing whether or not there should be some kind of cap on when people stop serving. Just because you're from a different era at that point. You may have some old ideas that are ingrained and they come out subconsciously. So it's I don't think it was a very deliberate thing to say, but it sure was a dumb thing to say.
Yeah. Tiani Storm.
That's funny because I was actually gonna bring that up too, Rob. Like when we talked about it a few weeks ago, and I remember calling. I don't think it was that same episode, but I remember calling them old farts at one point because it's like they have this old outdated method, like mindset. So sometimes even though they kind of have developed into the new times, they still say things that are like, okay, he still thinks we're this type of way. So it's just interesting. I actually I don't even remember the question. What was the question?
So, the question is,
Wah, 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 wah.
the question was, so in this country, American means white. Everybody else has to hyphenate. Was Toni Morrison correct?
Still yes. My answer is still yes.
Oh, so that's what it means. All right.
Everybody else does still have to have it. Yes.
And okay, Lizzie, real quick,
Still.
because I have a follow up. Duh. You so duh.
Duh.
All right. So
Duh.
okay. So then the other question is, how do we
wasn't finished.
change it? How do we change it?
I wasn't
So
finished.
go ahead. So how do we change it as well?
Oh.
We're not the majority in this country, so I'm not sure we can change it. We're not the majority in our government. We're not the majority in business. We're not the majority in the population. So I'm not sure we can change it. Like if you look at a lot of these incidents that have happened or that have been posted on social media over the past 2 years or whatever, when people are saying, go back to your country, go back to where you came from, they're not saying that to white people.
You mean
They're saying that
Americans?
to
Americans?
Americans, yes, in America. We're talking about America, not Canada. I don't know what's going on in Canada.
No, I
In
mean
America, they're
no,
not.
No,
Americans,
the-
white people.
the-
Quote
yeah,
Americans.
People
They're
of
not
Asian
telling-
descent have endured that during the pandemic. It hasn't been pretty in Canada.
But here in this
people of Asian
country,
descent.
they're not talking to white
Yeah.
people. They're talking to everybody else that needs a hyphen to prove their nationalism, to prove their status. And think about it. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 wasn't written to protect white folks and their right to vote. The 24th Amendment, which abolished poll taxes for voting, wasn't for white people. This was all for black people. We had to write things in our government, in our Constitution, to protect black people and their right to vote. So, of course, Toni Morrison is right. We're an afterthought. We're an other as it relates to government, as it relates to Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell, his wife is Taiwanese. You don't hear him talking about, oh, well, Taiwanese people have the right to vote just as much as other Americans. What?
So,
You don't hear him saying that.
so the other thing that the reporter actually asked referred to people of color, not necessarily black people. But of course, Mitch McConnell was like, African Americans and comparing black and white. But if you really look at it, people of color includes Latinos, indigenous people, various immigrated
That's what I'm
citizens.
saying.
So
That's what
I mean,
I'm saying.
you said white people to the majority. I don't know that that's truly the case, because for one, if we're talking about like one drop of blood makes you black, for example, then I don't think there's very few white people that don't have a drop of blood that's not some
Neil,
other
I'm going by the
person of
the
color.
consensus. I'm not going by what you think. I'm going by the registered consensus. Okay. What
So
the
you
population what the
They're more-
population demographic is in this country, and white people out of the 70 million people in this country, of people
who identify as white,
who identify
because
as
a lot
white,
of
but who
passing
also
people
want-
too.
But we're not talking about them. Like, we didn't just all of a sudden, come to this, okay, white people are a minority. That's what they want you to think here. So don't feed into that argument. White folks are still the majority in this country. I'm not saying an overwhelming
There's no
majority,
question.
but a majority nonetheless. And even if you think they are some type of minority, they are not. They are the governing
That's
body
not
in
what
this
I'm
country.
saying. That's certainly
They are
not
the
what I'm
governing.
saying.
They are the governing body in this country, and so of course you have all of the, like Mitch. He racist. You have all of these people, in Congress, in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, former president from, a year and a half ago, who are just now taking their sheets off. People are feeling comfortable now in this country, walking around with no sheets on, talking a whole lot of bullshit. And so that's why I agree with Toni Morrison as it relates to who's in power and in charge in this country. Yeah, we're an afterthought. We're hyphenated. And it's gonna take a
It's
we were that even under Obama. Even under Obama. Like Mitch
Do
McConnell
you think that
challenged everything that Obama tried to do for this country. Every single thing, from the rooter to the tutor. So yeah, it's not something that I think we're going to see in our lifetime. This type of change where we are on level playing field.
Level ground.
Saying, I just want to actually look at a comment from Jacqueline Robinson, who says the new census shows that Caucasians will be a minority in a few more years, and these laws are a violent reaction to that.
Yep.
I can see that.
And I think it's relevant to what we're saying.
It's exactly.
I think it depends, though, again, because that may be true as it relates to the census, but they won't be a minority where it counts. They won't be a minority when
In
it comes to
representation.
government, when it comes to business, when it comes to representation.
So that was going to be my next question. Do you think, how could that change happen? Like, I know it may not be in our lifetime, but in the next couple of generations, what would that look like? Would it look like more people of color in charge, and that kind of changes things by us being in
Well,
charge
one,
and us being
people need to fucking vote. Like that, first and foremost, people need to vote. They need to get involved in the democracy that we have here, in the democratic process that we have here. I'm not talking about just voting for president. You need to vote at the local level. You need to vote in the elections that happen every year, every
Local
2
level
years,
voting is
every
far
4.
more important than people
Oh my
realize
gosh,
Yeah.
100%,
because
100%.
it's
It may
weird.
impact whether or not
Politics
critical
actually
race
trickles
theory is
up
being
more
taught
than you
where
think
you
it
are.
does. Politics actually trickles up more than you think it does.
Yeah.
Because if once you start building constituents locally, it grows out of that. It's almost like it's very different than like economics, for example, or it's very, or like if you're in your job, the manager kind of sets the tone and everybody kind of follows that. It's different in politics. It's almost like a growth. You can grow politics, but right now, they're owning the local the local elections right now. I mean, and that's
I
how
know a young
that's how they're
lady.
going to win the midterms is by focusing on those local elections.
I know a young lady who built her social media platform on bitching about everything in her city, in her state, in federal government, or whatever. Bitching, 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 upset about this, upset about that. But she is not a registered voter.
It's bullshit.
And so I'm
This
just like,
pisses me off
and
every
I'm
time
like,
I
well,
hear that shit.
then don't talk to me because you're not
Yeah.
doing something effective that can change the things that you are bitching about.
Yeah.
So
Other
don't
than
talk to me. I don't
speech,
want to hear
yeah,
it.
you need
I
to
don't want to hear
walk
it.
the walk. You
There's
need
some
to
You're
walk
like a
the walk.
TV show at this point. I don't want to hear it.
There's
I
a
don't wanna hear it.
lot of comments on this that we need to get to because we're out of time. Jeanette Brown says, "Ooh, I pity the Taiwanese woman who married him."
Elaine Chow, I think her name is.
Yeah,
Elaine Chow, I
Oh
think her
my.
name is.
I met her a while ago, and her thinking is not far off from his. So, A Day says, you can always expect to hear stuff like this from a white supremacist. Latoya says, bruh, it's not like we all don't know they're racist pieces of shit anyway. Mike Winter, these fools just wear their hoods and robes and a Confederate flag pinned to the Capitol.
And they're bold now. And they're bold now. And let me just say this because I think a lot of times when we talk about um, white supremacists or the Republican Party, that people think that we are anti-white. And I am far from it. I am talking about a specific segment of our population that does not have my best interest, does not have Neo's best interest, does not have doesn't even have honestly Rob B's best, because he's an immigrant. If he came here, he would be an immigrant. Speaking French,
Yeah.
they'd be like, I don't know, bruh. Are you white enough?
Adegbo
Black
Yega.
enough to speak another language?
Adegbo Yega says hashtag bitch McConnell. Hashtag Mitch
I
please.
wasn't gonna say it. Moscow, Mitch. I like Mitch, please though. I like
Mitch please.
Mitch,
That's why he says, I'm not really surprised this Jurassic tortoise would do or say some shit like this, but it's no less infuriating. Fuck him.
But then, Neo, you didn't bring up how he tried to backtrack from it.
Oh
and
yeah,
brought up
Daria
the
Winner was
fact that-
pointing that out. I was just gonna read Daria Winner's
he was
comment
in
on
I
it.
thought you were going to bring that up.
When he was in college, he was at the March on Washington. Boy, okay, so you got a black friend. You thought y'all were gonna go and march on Washington.
One of the
Okay,
paths.
were you one of the snipers? Were you one of the snipers that were trying to get MLK?
Probably,
Like, why
actually.
were you there? Why were you there?
Daria Winner says,
in 2019, when he was asked about his position on reparations for slavery, part of his response was, well, we've elected an African-American president. Like, that makes it right?
yes, all of a sudden. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, well, we elected Barack. We're good.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Right.
We're even.
Daria
Why
Winner
you say,
says,
keep my name out of your mouth. Keep my name out of your mouth.
Daria Winner said, the 1970s black folk did just that. Grassroots organizing had us elevated politically across the country. Study history. Yes,
Yep.
Start locally.
100.
All right, is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
Shenanigans.
Come on now.
It's
Okay,
All
I'm
shenanigans
sorry.
today. It's all
I
shenanigans.
mean, he said it, so there's some truth in that, but
So
shenanigans.
that's how
Johnny's got
feel.
shenanigans. Okay.
And like
Truth and
Justin Robinson
shenanigans
said
from
on, our,
Rob.
on Facebook, on our Facebook page, this was not a Freudian slip.
Oh
Nah.
no, he knew it. I mean, it's just that's who he is. That's
how
exactly
we
it.
talk.
All right.
It's not his first time public speaking. This is how he feels.
Yeah.
How he
No
feels.
question. All right, let's get into our game show. Lighten things up a little bit. All right. Today's game is Interesting Thoughts. I'll ask you each various interesting thoughts, and you give me the answer and any related stories behind it. Whoever I think gives the most interesting thoughts wins the game and the final thought for the show. So, for example, in life, do you consider yourself generally as one who plays offense or defense?
I play. I told y'all before. I
You
play.
play. Exactly. That's what we're looking for.
Both sides of the coin. Don't come for me.
That's what we're looking for. Okay.
I'm
So are we
defense.
ready? Let's start with Lizzie today. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. T.S. Eliot said anxiety is the handmaiden of creativity. What gives you anxiety, but could inspire your creativity too?
Jeez. That's a good one.
Failure.
Oh, that's
Failure.
deep. That's deep right
Oh,
there.
yeah, that was good.
So failure gives you anxiety, but also inspires your creativity.
Gives me anxiety every day because it's one of my biggest fears. Like I don't want to fail at anything. But because of that, I inspire, and I fail sometimes at it, but I inspire to be great at what I do, to be right
love
about
that
everything
answer.
I say, to be great at what I do. So failure.
Love that answer. Love that answer.
That's a
All right.
great answer.
Robbie, when is it okay to lie?
I wish you'd given me this
How
one.
do
Oh
you
my God.
explain this one?
When is it okay to lie? It is okay to lie when the truth will bring about more harm than good, but not in a way that protects your self-interest. You have to remove yourself from that equation altogether.
Yeah, I'm with Lizzie. I'm looking at Lizzie's face. I'm like, no.
Well,
Protect the
when is it
hell out
okay
of
to lie?
myself.
If my freedom is at risk, I am lying. If my freedom is at risk, I am lying.
I ain't going to jail for nothing. I don't care if I
that
did
make
do
you
it.
okay?
Fuck it. I'm claiming
I'm gonna
innocent.
be like, Neo did it. Neo did it. Neo
But
did
you asked for all-out lie to embellish or to modify
lying the
slightly
fuck.
or to omit.
Oh, I'm skipping this. I'm like, this is stupid. All right. Next one, Gianni. What's your personal key to happiness?
Happiness.
Lizzie's on the bottom.
I need to get some Liz and empty. The happiness. My personal key.
By the way, while she's thinking, Robbie Jose says, remove the ego. And Ade says, lie when necessary. Go,
What?
Gianni. Ade says, lie
Who
when necessary.
determines that?
All right.
My
What's your personal key to happiness?
is just letting things go and being grateful. Letting things go and being grateful. And
like
then laughter.
Okay. All right, we'll accept that.
Nice.
All right.
I like that.
Lizzie, is it better to not overeat or to not waste food? That's a good
Don't
question,
waste
actually.
nothing.
Because I struggle with this all the time.
Me too.
The food's going to go bad. I'm eating the shit out of
Every
it.
day.
I'm one where health wise, I'm gonna go with to not overeat. I waste food y'all have no idea how much food I throw away each week.
I believe.
However,
It's
as a
anything like my
diabetic,
wife, it's a lot.
as a diabetic, health wise, I can't afford to overeat. It will kill me.
Okay.
So I'm gonna
Yeah.
go with not overeat.
Fair enough. All right.
And it's so funny because Jose and I this week have
Health-wise.
made a very concerted effort to reduce our food waste, and we were quite successful this week. It was pretty good. So I'm proud of us.
I think
for making
people will be
that change.
amazed how much food we throw out. It's shocking.
It is a lot.
It's shameful.
All right. Robbie,
No, it is
how
shameful.
has travel made you a better person?
Aw.
Travel has made me a
Cool.
better person by having honest and open exchanges with people from different countries and different cultures, and remarking on the similarities that exist between all people, to
Yes.
experience different cultures and to recognize that I'm a guest and to be humbled by the history and the contributions of wherever I am.
By the way,
Yeah, that's cool.
I like it. I accept it. So, Adeg Boyega says, don't waste food. And then Latoya Blakely says, same Lizzie, vodka is love.
That's happiness.
All right.
That's a good one.
All right, this is the last one.
Crazy.
So, Gianni, what's the first thing you do when you get home from a trip?
Aw.
Shower.
Yeah, great answer. Hell yeah.
Hot shower.
Yep.
And eat. And lay down.
Neil,
Watch TV.
you accept that answer.
I
That's the
accept.
right answer.
I accept that right answer. All right. I actually let's see. I'm going with Lizzie today. I thought I liked her her first answer. So Lizzie, you win the game, Lizzie. Good job.
You finally gave me some love. What's up with that?
Yeah, I like the first answer. Failure. Failure also inspires you. All right, let's
Yeah,
get some
that was a
shout
good
outs.
one.
Johnny Storm, shout out.
Yes, actually, shout out to Robbie Rock. This Wednesday, we're dropping your episode. So on Beyond the Stars. So we're excited, and we just want to say thank you again for sharing your story. We can't wait for everybody to hear it, and to resonate. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, Robbie. I haven't heard it yet. I've heard all the other episodes. I haven't heard yours yet.
Save the best.
No pressure. No pressure.
All right. Robbie Rock, shout outs.
Shout out to Micah and Jay of the Nerdpocalypse. I will be making my third appearance on their podcast this Thursday, and their YouTube videos and podcasts usually gets posted a few days later. But a very special shout out to my granddaughter Annabella, who this week made her first peanut butter and jam sandwich all on her own. I saw the video of it, and it was just so amusing to hear my daughter recording it going, oh, good job, baby. That's perfect. But it's just to remember to revel in the innocence of it. When you see a child doing something for the first time or for the 10th time, when you've done it thousands of times, it's a process. You fucked up your first sandwich too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Lizzie, shout outs.
So piggyback off of Rob in terms of love for our children. Shout out to my goddaughter, Savannah Lee. Today is her 20th birthday. Her mom has been in tears like the past week. And I have too, just because I can't believe it's been 20 years. I was there from the beginning, there now. I love her dearly. And she's my twin, which her mom hates. This is a child that I didn't give birth to, but she looks exactly like me. So today is her 20th birthday. I love you so much. And we are going to have a Zoom party once the after show is over. So, Savannah Annie, happy 20th.
Happy birthday.
Amazing.
I'm
Happy
sticking with the
birthday.
family theme here. My shout outs to my niece Simone. I had dinner with her and my mother-in-law last night, and we had a great time. She's in high school, star soccer player. She's super smart, but she's also got a little swag to her. She got a little edge to her. She can get really, really competitive, but she's awesome. So shout out to my niece Simone. And our final shout out goes to the winner of our Pet Shenanigans of the Week.
Aw.
This is Bobby sitting in front of the fireplace, sent in by Robin Pack Del Pezzo.
Bobby is a model.
A beautiful picture.
I think
Just
a
need
lot
the
of our
wine chilling by the fireplace.
I know.
our My Pet Shenanigans cats are all over the place, but I think a lot
Oh,
of our dogs are model-esque.
Yes,
Our
I agree.
dogs
The dogs are
model-esque
really
for
pretty on
sure.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. To see all of the pets and post your favorite pet's photo or video, join the TLS Pet Shenanigans Facebook group, mypetshenanigans.com. All right, and that is officially all of the time we have for today's show. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us. We hope that you maybe learned something, gained a new perspective, even got some things off your chest. We'll be back next week with another amazing guest, more deep discussions. Don't forget the podcast is available for download every Monday, so subscribe to Truth Lies Shenanigans wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Beyond the Scars podcast so you can hear Neicee J's episode. Her story is extremely deep. All right, and the conversation is not ending here. We are going to keep the cameras rolling for the after show. We probably have about 15 minutes. That'll be exclusively on TLSfans.com. And our winner for the final thought of the day, Miss Lizzie Enders. Take us out, Lizzie. Take us out.
So I too just want to thank Neicee J for joining us today and sharing her story. Stories of abuse, whether it be child abuse, whether it be domestic violence, they're not difficult. They are difficult, very difficult to tell. They're not easy to tell. So I think we should all, reflect and look inside and look around us and kind of observe and see someone or look at someone who you suspect may be going through something. Doesn't mean you have to jump on them or whatever, but be very sensitive to someone's story, especially, given the fact that a lot of people, this is a story for a lot of people in society, whether they're children, whether they're teenagers, adults. A lot of people are holding in, suppressing a lot of pain. So be open to their stories and be of some help. Help, don't hinder. Thank you, Neicee. Thank you for your story.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of families out there that don't even realize the abuse that they've had. All right, thank you, Lizzie, Gianni, Robbie Rock, and always our people behind the scene, bringing an awesome show, Nesme, Ellen, Jose, Olivia E. But most importantly, I've got to thank you for watching and listening to our shenanigans each and every week, and we will see you next time.